Oh man, it's twists and turns but from here to Archie. I tell you what. No, not actually Archie. I won't ruin the surprise for you. So after that episode, she did find someone. I like to say because of the episode, but that is up to conjecture. And then they started going out, and then we had her back on again, and then yes, he broke it off. He needed to concentrate on his career. God, I'm glad I don't have to go through that anymore. It's true. Dan. I was surprised and a little appalled at the idea that he was going to vote. He was going to put our money up on his behalf. They kept it close. I didn't actually watch it. I just saw the score periodically. Has anyone brought up how many shots it took to take the deer down yet? How many shots it took to take the deer down yet?
More than one.
Yeah, it was 3 times more than one.
All those trucks were up.
Oh no, that's mine. Yeah. All the king's horses and all the king's men. Could not put Bambi back together again. This morning we had an accident out on the curb there on 16th Street.
Oh, I've had it already. I've had it twice. I had it 4 weeks ago.
Well, it was funny because
I got the second variant, I think. So did you have this, what'd you have? I said, what'd you have for symptoms? Sore throat?
what?
Totally tired. Actually, it felt just like a sinus infection, which I get very more. I had terrible. I still haven't got it.
I suppose, yeah.
I was not sore. It's like, if I could just spit it out. Every once in a while, a big lump comes up. I chew on it for a while. So yeah, all I had was, I had severe bronchitis, and then about half a day of that, I was just, my joints just ached, and then I had a terrible sore throat. Guarantee it. So we tested. I got it. Yeah. Came back negative. I got it. COVID came back positive. Yeah, I did too. Then he gave me.
Oh, we can start.
And that was the worst.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I see we have some visitors here today. Are you here to speak or just observe? Students, perhaps? Are you observing for a class, Amy? Is that right?
We're not doing RV handouts today.
All right. Well, welcome to all of you. We'd like to begin standing for a moment of silence, and we'll follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Pete Hamill.
Here.
Ken Snyder.
Here.
Brad Hint.
Here.
Wayne Marahona.
Here.
Tom Eggers.
Here.
Moving on to item 2, the approval of the agenda. I'll take a motion for that, please.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Eggers.
Aye.
Farahona.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
We've now reached that point in our agenda for the public forum. Is there anyone wishing to address the council at this time? Please state your name for the record.
Tom Foose. Later in the agenda, on the agenda, there's an insurance item.
Okay,
Want to do something in public comment now, or should we wait until
let's save it for, if that's why you're here, let's save it for then.
Okay.
Yep, let's do it then.
Who else gets nervous when their insurance guy comes up to address you?
Twice.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council for anything not on the agenda at this time? Okay. So I'm not seeing anybody step forward, so let's move on then to approval of the consent agenda.
So move. Support.
Roll call, please.
Snyder.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
Farahona.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
One of those items was approving Shane Nellis and in his role as a full-time police officer. And so with that approval, Shane, if you'll meet me at the podium there, we'll do your swearing in. Raise your right hand. I, Shane Nellis,
I, Shane Nellis,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold all laws of the Constitution of the United States,
that I will uphold all laws of the Constitution of the United States,
state of Iowa,
the state of Iowa,
and the city of Sheldon.
and the city of Sheldon.
I will faithfully and impartially,
I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all duties of the officer of the office, discharge all duties of the office
discharge all duties of the office
of police officer for the city of Sheldon,
of police officer for the city of Sheldon,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law. Thank you.
Making me nervous there, Birch. At least he didn't ask us to put our hands together. Smell something? That's a coffee. Stop.
All right, moving on then to item 6, a budget recap. I'm assuming you're going to comment on that?
We don't have much to add.
Okay.
Angie, do you?
No, really, we added all your requests from loss. We changed the employee benefits levy to what it currently is, and I also did update the cost to exercise the Grantster land. I think the numbers were just a little low on what we originally presented, so that's it.
Right. Is there any other comments from the council on or questions at this time? If not, then we need a motion approving a resolution which sets the time and place of the hearing for 2 weeks hence.
Motion.
Support.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hamel.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Farahona.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
All right, moving right along into new business now. I'd like to open the public hearing on the Rainbow Drive project. There's a contract to be awarded, was bid this week? Last week, Tuesday, okay. Any comments regarding that? If not, a motion to close the hearing, please.
So moved. Support.
Roll call, please.
Hint.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Farahona.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
All right, and there's also a We need approval for the resolution awarding the contract.
So moved.
Support.
And the recommendation is for approval of the base bid and the alternate A to Cleveringa Excavating of Alton, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Any comments you want to make at this time?
We received 3 bids on the project. Justin Christensen from DGR is here if you have any questions about the contract as well. We were happy with the bids. As you see in his letter, the low bid, Cleveringa's was about 5% estimate, which isn't shocking. And I guess just another point is that the second bid, had the second bid from Holstein been low, we would have accepted alternate B, which we compared as equals, but $1,642 on the $750,000 project, so pretty close.
Projected start date at this point?
Don't have one, we haven't had, or unless, did you hear anything from? Contract, Mayor, has a late start date of May 31, and then it's a working day contract, 45 days.
Okay.
They're currently working on securing material purchases, so.
Okay.
Or not purchases, they don't have an agreement yet, but with lead times and things, they're working that end of the
Okay.
materials, so.
Very good. All right. Did we,
We have a motion and a second.
okay, we need to have roll call on that then, please.
Farahona?
Aye.
Eggers?
Aye.
Himmel?
Aye.
Hint?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
All right, then, under new business, item B, the Fire Department Emergency Management Agency issue. We have a letter of resignation from the former director, Mike Davis. And then, so in his place, Wayne Barahona will serve as the interim director and Mitch Geese as the interim assistant director. So we need to confirm that by a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve that. Support.
All right, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Himmel?
Aye.
Farahona?
Abstain?
Hint?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Eggers?
Aye.
Then the second thing under that heading is review the existing fire and EMA ordinances. Any comments you'd like to make at this time regarding that, Sam?
I would. Thank you, Mayor. So the explanation is fairly straightforward, so I won't add a lot to it other than to say that I have been talking to Micah and Brad and Wayne about reviewing the ordinances, and my main concern is to ensure eligibility for the National Safety Officers Benefit Program, but these ordinances need to be generally reviewed. Now that we have a vacancy, now is the time. I think that, so I had recommended interim appointments while it's addressed. The ordinance was going to be updated as we look at the overall update later this year or next, but that is a major update, and so I asked for this ordinance to be it's Iowa Codification or Simmering and Quarry out of Storm Lake that has been helping us with the overall code rewrite. So they sent me a draft, and that draft is linked, and no first reading at all today. Be at a future meeting, but I guess I'd open the floor for any discussion or thoughts.
All right, any questions or comments from anyone at this time? Do you have a date in mind as far as a future meeting, or when we would have the discussion and approval of the ordinance, the first reading?
It'd be sometime after the review. So we have 2 departments and the city attorney that needs to
Okay.
review it. The reason I added this to the agenda in the way that I did is I wanted everybody to understand why I was recommending interim appointments and not a permanent appointment.
Okay.
And to be fair, I think we need to let the leadership of the 2 departments review it and look into the matter. You know, I think Wayne and Mitch are gonna get together with the fire chief and his two assistants and review this. Because this is kind of fairly new to us too.
Right.
So, I think to be fair with everybody in this game, I think we need to let the departments review it and look it over, along with Sam and Micah.
Okay. Anything else to add from anyone? So, no action is required at this time, so, okay. Then we can move on. City manager's report. Anything you'd like to share?
Thank you, Mayor. General report, I really don't have anything to add. Emergency Services Task Force concept, that information is in the city manager's report, so that's on the second item under A. Any questions or thoughts on that? You know, I'd like to further define something before I give it to you. It's my style of how I do things. This is, seems like the time is good, the timing is good to bring something like this forward, but the reality is that this could be a very time-consuming conversation, and before this is officially on an agenda for consideration and creation of such a task force, I wanted to get your opinion on it. I've talked to a few of you about it, but I have not talked to all of you about it, so I get your thoughts.
I guess I support, you know, utilizing a task force on such a major issue as this. There's a lot of different opinions and issues that are going to need to be addressed through this. So, how large a task force are you thinking?
Well, I have on page 2 there of the explanation, I had a 9-member task force subject to council approval, and there'd be an appointment by EMA, one by fire, the county EMA director, chief of police, someone from SCAT, and then individual appointments by 3 council members and the mayor. And it's just a suggestion.
Would there be any council representation, or would they be self-appointed in terms of these council members that are listed?
Well, it's possible that that EMA and fire, by virtue of that, could have a council member on there, but we would keep, you know, good minutes and agendas and town cloud, and it would come to the city council. All the recommendations would be voted on by you.
And I see the last item, they have the duration, because it's a short-term task force, would be no later than the end of 2023. With the hope that most of it would be finished this year sometime. So it's not a long-term commitment from anybody.
Correct.
Okay. So you're looking for direction at this time?
No, I'm looking for for feedback, and if I sense there's good feedback, then it would come forward to a future agenda to create the task force, and then we'd have, hopefully we could have the creation of the task force and the membership at the same meeting to be confirmed by you. And I know Jared mentioned to me and Kristen yesterday that there is a task force convening at the courthouse soon to, I think it's at the courthouse, to talk about EMS, which is an important piece of this. You know, if we want, we could wait and see how that task force plays out. I'm not sure how long that will happen. but this has a little bit different scope.
Well, I think the structure that we've had in place since pretty much the induction of SCAT back in the 60s or 70s, whenever it was. So I think that we are probably due to have to take a fresh and refreshed look at how our partnerships are, how our territory is split, and how we go about doing business here. And yeah, I think that I would be all for this moving forward, personally.
You mentioned that calls are up as one of the reasons for this task force. I was very surprised at the increase in the number of calls that SCAT makes from like 10 years ago. They were, when Christian's report the other day with our budget meetings, 10 years ago they were at around 400, and now they're in the 700s. That's a significant, that's a 75% increase with about the same number of people serving. So
I also think there's some changes from the state level as far as requirements and acknowledgments, and maybe that's what the county's looking at, I don't know. But there seems to be some effort from the state finally on some of this stuff where they just kind of didn't address it in the past.
I think if you look at the landscape of our town, not only is it growing and it's getting larger, there's a large segment of it that is aging. So that I think is putting additional pressures, especially from on the SCAT side of things. You know, I've spoken with a number of former SCAT directors who have explained that has helped us, but on the flip side of that, I think we're having better outcomes because we're having better trained personnel, we're having quicker response times, and we need to make sure that we are, not only that we are compensating those who are in the line of duty, but making sure that the organization as a whole has proper, sustaining, whether it be from revenue, from the actual calls themselves, stuff that's monies that are divvied from the county or from the state, or making sure that we can keep this a viable community resource, because it's tough. I mean, it's tough to find volunteers. It's tough to find people that'll do anything for money, let alone for the love of it. So I think we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can in our power to make sure that we have all the resources available for those who are willing to step up and serve.
So let's talk briefly about the appointments and who makes them. The makeup of a task force like this is important. And what are your thoughts on who makes the appointments and how? It's a little bit unusual. I'm open to your feedback.
So for the councilmen that are representing a ward rather than an at-large, would the assumption be it would be somebody from within their ward, a resident from within their ward?
No, I'd say it could be anybody.
Okay.
Subject to the confirmation of the rest of the council.
Okay.
It'd be good if it's coordinated, because you want to have overlap, but you also want to have individuality. So
I like the way it's set up here in terms of diversity and stuff. Everybody has an opportunity. If you're not, like in case of Wayne and Brad, if they're not involved as members of the fire department or EMA, but the rest of everybody gets a chance to appoint someone that would represent them, hopefully. Well, I think it looks good.
Okay.
Any other comments? So I would say you can move forward with it then.
All right, so if I could move on to the next item. This is for ICAP, which is our property casualty insurance, and our IMWCA, which is our workers' comp insurance. I received a excuse me, a request from Friends Insurance a few weeks ago for the opportunity to compete to be our agent of record. And been doing some research on this. This is a big process. So I guess before I get into that, we do have one of the agencies here that has asked to speak. Maybe you want to hear that testimony first, and then I have a few comments.
All right, gentlemen. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, we'll keep this brief.
Tip the mic up if you would, Tom, just a little bit so it picks you up a little better. There you go.
Sam and I have visited a little bit about this, and first off, we appreciate the fact that we've had a lot of years of service being the insurance agent for the city of Sheldon. That's we're very grateful for that. In the packet, I think it's the last item, I put some talking points in, and I don't need to read that. I'd like you to review it, but I want to hit a couple high spots on that. So IMWCA, the city joined IMWCA in 1980, so it's a long time, and ICAP in 1995. So ICAP and IMWCA are both pools that are set out specifically to ensure public entities like cities, counties, landfills, E911s, county fairs, currently 794 members. The city of Sheldon is vested in that pool. It takes 6 years to become fully vested. In the last 10 years, because of your vesting, you've received vouchers, which is credit against your premium of $84,200. Due to the derecho and large claims, I think you remember when I was here last year, we talked about the fact that there wasn't going to be a voucher last year. So that was the first time in 14 years, I think, that there hadn't been one. So the city is fully vested. If you leave ICAP, you lose your vesting. So if you ever came back to ICAP, you start all over again. So I just wanted to point that out. Perspective has been very, very involved with ICAP since its inception. I think you all know Ron Rensink. Ron was part of that original committee that helped start ICAP. So he went around to different communities that tried to promote ICAP and encourage them to let their city quote on ICAP's program. So we've been way back to that point, very active. Not every agent is certified to do business with ICAP and IMWCA. So we've gone through lots of training, classes. We have certified agents within our agency. So we spent a lot of time becoming an ICAP certified agency. Our staff is well trained. I think I would hope that you would attest to the fact that when you need something, they're there and they're right on it. So we would appreciate it if we weren't, that you would tell us so. We currently have 17 insureds with ICAP and IMWCA. So we have a lot of experience with that, and those are long-term relationships as well. The letter that you received from another agency, they've not ever written a piece of business with ICAP or IMWCA. I just wanted to point that out, that we would hold our experience as something valuable. From a loss control standpoint, in service from ICAP and IMWCA, I would not say that there's anyone that does a better job. Sam, we're meeting with ICAP tomorrow, a loss control person. They're very active. One of the things that they're going to talk about tomorrow is services offered by ICAP as far as loss control is concerned. I know IMWCA, the same thing. We've met several times with their folks, and they're very active in loss control and controlling claim situations here. We participate in ongoing education with both IMWCA and ICAP. There's a virtual cyber class tomorrow that we'll be attending. A couple other things that ICAP does for the city. 5 hours of free legal service, legal consultation. That's all IMWCA and ICAP do is serve their members. So they're not insuring manufacturing firms and lumber yards, and they're solely there for public entities. They have a grant program, so 6 years in a row now the city has applied for a safety grant, which is a $1,000 award each year, and the city's received $6,000 at this point. I think there's a 2022 grant application that you have as well. So that's an ongoing situation. Again, thank you for your confidence in perspective over the years. I just wanted to mention one thing. I've been here for a long time, 35 years. And I've come before many councils previously, many city managers. And I know the decision that you have to make has been made by a lot of other folks in the past. And we appreciate that confidence. So thank you. Any questions that I can answer?
Doesn't sound like it.
Larry's got a couple words to say.
Again,
For those-
state your name as well.
Yeah, for those who don't know me, Larry Smith with Perspective Insurance, been there 24 years. I'm part of the staff that works with Tom on your account, and the staff appreciates your business, and we are there to continue to provide you high-quality service, and we appreciate that.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us today and for your comments. All right. You alluded to the fact that there will be a lot of work to go into this with offer what Prince is asking. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, you know, when I'm going through this now with the auditor RFPs, and you know, it's and that's actually something that we have had some practice at, you know, going through that process. But even then, there's a fair amount of due diligence that needs to be done. I do think that it is good for the taxpayers and good for the process and good for everybody involved to have healthy competitions. I also think that timing is important too, and I am currently in my busiest time of year. The renewal process starts in earnest in April for the account review, and the renewal itself needs to be filed by July 1. Prinz is highly respected in the community, and since they have asked to compete, I think that that's something that we can consider offering. It shouldn't be assumed that they're the only ones interested. If you open it up, there really should be a request for proposal process to make it fair. I'm aware of 2 local banks that have insurance agencies as well. They might be interested. I know when I was in my prior community, the agent of record at one point was with one of the local banks, so that's something that would have to be there. So that was something that we'd have to think about, and so the faster a process is rushed, the more perception that there can be for unfairness, and so those are my thoughts.
Any comments or further questions? So I'm hearing, tell me if I'm hearing this right, I'm sensing that you think it would be a worthwhile exercise to do this, but the timing and the amount of work it's going to take is going to be challenged, make it challenging.
Right, and Bruce Mosier let me know yesterday he was unable to make this meeting today, and so this is not an agenda item, or it wasn't set up as an agenda item anyway. He's was unable to attend. So you know, my thought would be to have it on a future meeting so that he can have a voice in the decision of whether to have an RFP now or not. I think if you wait 2 weeks, I think there would be obviously less time, but I think to make a decision by consensus today when he's not here, that might be an issue as well. So.
Okay.
But I think sharing your initial feedback on this would be great.
Thoughts, anyone?
Well, we owe it to our constituents to make sure that, you know, we are being the best stewards of their dollars, so I do understand the need to make sure that we are, you know, just doing our due diligence. And with that said, I do appreciate where you're coming from as far as a timing and staffing standpoint to try and facilitate all this before we get into our July deadline. So, yeah, it's a conversation I guess I'm willing to entertain, but I don't want to have to. I guess I'll have to defer to Sam as far as his level of ability from a time standpoint to facilitate this along with everything else.
Okay.
And I would guess that the request doesn't necessarily trigger a deadline other than the annual renewal date.
Correct.
But it's not something that triggers some kind of a deadline.
And there would be some things, Pete, that would have to be thought through before a decision is made to go out for an RFP. Okay, do you have a small insurance committee, for example, that would be formed of a council member, a couple of staff members, maybe a disinterested insurance agent in the community, go through the RFP. You'd have to decide, do you want this to be a permanent, quote-unquote permanent RFP until something happens that causes you to want to change, or would you want to go through this process every 3 or 5 years? You know, we went through the process in 2019 with banks. You know, in a couple of years we'll probably go through that process again. With that one, we didn't set a term of 3 or 5 years. That was part of the RFP. Here's what we will do for you if you select us, right? And then we had some offers of a 3-year RFP, and then we ended up with 5. So there's a number of ways to look at this, and I have tremendous respect for Prinz Insurance and for Perspective. I know Bruce Mosier for a very long time, and so you have to remember too that this would be a little bit different because this would be a customer service competition and not a money competition. It's not. It's a different type of competition, and that requires a different type of analysis because the agency fees are set by.
So as such, how does one make an apples to apples comparison?
Well, it becomes very difficult because in a competition like this, the incumbent has a natural advantage, right? And so, in order to make it as fair as possible, you'd really need to have a committee and a good RFP and some sort of a internal interview process, and then a future city council meeting where all the parties would have an opportunity to present their case as well. And then you'd also,
What do you think your personal deadline, I mean, what do you think is a deadline that would be easy for you to handle?
Well, I think the best time for a competition like this is in is in the summer or fall, you know, and to have it pretty much decided by the end of the year. And then that whoever is selected can begin their review process.
So in terms of dollars, you know, if these dollars are set as far as these fees go, how does that, you know, Tom had mentioned rebates and things like that through ICAP and that sort of thing. How does that play into the discussion?
Well, currently I have no interest in switching from ICAP or IMWCA. There's no need.
Okay.
We've been members of both for a very long time. We're getting good credits in both. And you know, there is another agency out there called, not agency, another pool. Is EMC a pool? Okay. But EMC does a lot of, handles a lot of cities. EMC still do Sioux Center? Yes, okay. So there's EMC is another agent or another pool or another company, and they're also very well respected. Perspective is an agent of record for EMC also. So that's the other thing that I forgot to mention, and I think I mentioned it in my report, is you would have to decide whether an agent of record competition also means that we're setting the stage for a switch, or if you'd want to come back and say, okay, wait a minute, if you're our agent of record, but that doesn't necessarily mean the city is going to authorize a switch. So we'd have to decide that too.
So, switching of agent of record, so in this particular scenario, if we were to switch to Prinz, who is not an ICAP affiliate, am I saying that right? Is that, I mean, we would lose our vesting, so,
Go
yeah, I guess, Tom, if
you could speak to it, yeah, come to the mic, please.
No, you wouldn't lose your vesting. I guess the point, you know, and this is a public forum, my point is the support that the agent has given or received from ICAP or IMWCA, not having any affiliation with them means that they've never done business with them. So very little knowledge of the workings of either.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
But it would not affect the vesting.
Gotcha.
Only if you changed carriers. So if you went to EMC, you would lose your vesting with ICAP.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to throw this out. I'm putting my fire department hat on, and here, the last couple of years, we've had claims, one major one here about a year ago, and working with Perspective and working with ICAP, I couldn't ask for much better. We had a question, called Tom, he'd get us an answer between their agency and ICAP. It really worked well, and Perspective I'll say they did an excellent job dealing with the couple claims we've had over the last couple of years. I just hate to rush into it.
Yeah.
When we have good service. I look at this compared to the audit firm. We weren't happy with the audit. They were late. So I look at this and we have a good agent right now. My track record with them, with the fire department, has been excellent. Very good to work with. So I just hate to rush into this. If we're going to look at it, let's push it out till the fall, summer or fall, and
Yeah, I tend to agree with that direction as well. It's, I think there's a lot of due diligence for us to understand exactly what's all not only entailed with being able to facilitate such an RFP, but also too, for us to understand what we're really going to look for out of it as well. So that once we get involved with it, we know we know what we're looking for and how to understand it. Salmon made mention about the fact that you don't want to rush it because it looks like maybe it's got a preemptive decision already made about it, and I understand that and don't disagree with him on that. But the other side of an RFP too is that it allows the company who is doing well to be very public and open about how well they're doing. And I think that's good not only for the council, but I think that's good for our constituents to understand and hear that too, so that they understand that their city government's making wise decisions and maintaining a standard of service that they deserve, similar to what Brad just attested to. So I think my suggestion is let's do our due diligence, take our time, understand what we have to go through, what we're going to get out, and how we're going to ascertain, the value of it, and then move from there. So,
Are we in agreement on that, everyone?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm going to say that direction. Anything else from you? Todd, do you have anything else?
Thank you.
Kurt's gone, Scott's gone. Angie?
No, thank you.
Micah?
Nope, thank you.
Council to my left, anything?
Nope.
To my right?
Yep.
Okay. Are we going to closed session? Okay. So,
Any motion to go into closed session?
Support?
we do. Just one thing, you students that are here observing today, I'd like to have your email addresses so I can send you a test on what you all observed today. No, I'm kidding, you may go.
Don't send me that test.
Yeah.
Question 1, where is the city council chambers, right? You probably didn't understand it was a councilman showing you where to go, did you?
Can we do a roll call?
Oh, we gotta have a roll call on going into closed session, please.
Snyder?
Aye.